Unfound has social media sites on X, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Valerie Ingorvaia was a 38-year-old from San Antonio, Texas. She had 5 kids and worked as a bartender. In the early morning hours of November 29th, 2019, Valerie and the new guy in her life left Fort Worth, headed for San Antonio. People later saw the new guy, but not Valerie. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Dunsel, and this is Unfound. There are many ways that disappearances destroy people's lives. One of those ways is in which that day, that date, is never the same. It's an anniversary not of joy, but of sadness, emptiness, and yes, hate, if foul play is believed to be the reason. Sometimes, though, people go missing on dates that are already culturally significant, whether due to traditions, religion, or history. And yes, those days get ruined too. Some examples. Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman went missing on New Year's Eve. Ashley Summers, despite what NAMUS says, went missing on July 4th, Independence Day for the United States. Dominic Holly Grisham went missing on the very day of his own birthday party. And Kenny Weaver went missing on Christmas Day. And Unfound has a few more just like these, where the disappearances have spoiled those otherwise special dates forever. Well, with Valerie Ingorvaia, her disappearance has ruined her family's life, and also 2 big days on the American calendar: Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Linez's website, charleyproject.org. Valerie Ingorvaia was the second oldest of 3 girls and 1 boy. She stood out in that she was the most outgoing of the group, always wanting to have a good time and urging others to do the same. Valerie had a variety of jobs due to her first husband moving around in the military. Eventually, after they got divorced, Valerie settled in as a bartender in San Antonio, while raising her 5 kids with the help of her siblings and parents, who were all a tight-knit group. The only issue in Valerie's life in 2019 was that she continued to suffer from occasional seizures that might have been caused by a prior injury. So, on November 28th, 2019, Valerie showed up at her cousin's Thanksgiving party in Fort Worth with a new guy, Chance. No one knew Valerie was even dating. The celebration went as planned, and at about 2:30 a.m., November 29th, Valerie and Chance left to go back to San Antonio. Early on in the drive, Valerie spoke to her mother on the phone, and Valerie didn't sound her usual relaxed self. Not long after this call, Valerie stopped responding to texts from others. Hours later, the family tracking app Life360 on Valerie's phone shut off. She was never seen again. Weeks later, Valerie's family, using that same app, found her phone in a field outside of San Antonio. The battery had been taken out. Bloody clothes, believed to be Valerie's, were found nearby. When he was tracked down, Chance claimed he had no idea who Valerie was. New men in women's lives and those women going missing is more common in unfound disappearances than I ever could have expected before I started this podcast. The murder of Zoe Campos, for example. Contemplate what is happening in these situations as you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, why have police still not informed Valerie's family whether those clothes and the blood on them are Valerie's or not? Number 2, Chance claiming not to know Valerie is maybe the stupidest response we've heard in Unfound's entire history, right? And number 3, could Valerie's disappearance have something to do with a crime Chance allegedly committed just days before Thanksgiving? Valerie's family, along with just about everyone else, have no doubt that violence is the root of the cause of her disappearance. The guests for this episode are Valerie's mother, Gina, and Valerie's sister, Roxanne. Unfound News. An update on the disappearance of Aiden Clune. Searchers last week found his shoes in that remote area near where his truck was left on the side of the road in Nevada. Unfortunately, the shoes did not reveal any other clues to Aiden's disappearance. Next, I continue to accept submissions for the next revisitation episode that will be taking place sometime within the next month. Email me your suggestions at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Finally, myself and Unfound got mentioned at trivia this past week. The woman who runs the game has become a listener. However, she did not mention what team I'm on because everyone hates us because we win too much. True story. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the sister of Valerie Ingorvaia, Roxanne. Roxanne, welcome to Unfound.
Thank you.
Let's start here. You are Valerie's sister, but let's just talk a little bit about your family. How many other kids are there? Talk about maybe growing up together. What part? Did you grow up in Texas? Did you grow up somewhere else? What can you say about all of that?
So there is total of 4 of us. It is myself, my sister Valerie, my brother, Juan, and my sister Kat.
All right, so 3 girls, 1 boy, and where does Valerie fall in that line?
She is the second oldest in our family.
Okay, so is she your older sister then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and how would you, what would you say, all of you growing up, very close in age or kind of spread out or what?
So my older sister was born in, I believe, 77. Valerie was born in 81.
Okay.
I was born in 87, and my little brother was born in 89.
Wow, so a little spread out, like 12 years from youngest to oldest. That's a little bit spread out. A little bit. But you and...
Yeah, we were spread out, but, we were a close, knit, tight family, We did everything together growing up.
Okay. And where was this? Where did you all grow up?
So we grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
In San Antonio. Okay, very good. All right. And so you have 4 kids, 1 boy, 3 girls, and you've already from 19 got the spread of about 12 years. And what are some of those memories you have? Once again, I like to really let the listeners know kind of the feeling for the family. Of course, we're going to get to know Valerie as well as we can here in a moment. But just maybe describe your family, kind of the laid-back type, or what kind? How would you explain your family? Everybody, including Valerie, growing up there.
So both my parents worked full time.
Wow.
Raising 4 kids, can be a handful.
Sure.
My mom would work during the day. My dad would work nights, and then they would rotate with their employer. So they were involved in every activity, anything we did growing up, whether it be choir, sports, cheer. Our parents were there to cheer us on.
Okay.
They didn't care what time of day. Oh, okay, I've only had an hour of sleep. Okay, we're going. Let's go.
Wow. That's really neat. That's really cool. Cool.
My parents are still actually involved with our lives till this day.
Yes. Yes, and I know. And of course, the listeners should know I have gotten to speak to your mother the previous time that we spoke. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I did get to...
Yeah, she's actually here with me.
She is. Great.
She's listening. She's,
right.
letting me do the talking.
Okay. All right. And her name is Gina. For everybody who's listening, your mother's name is Gina, right?
Yeah. Her name is the same as my sister's, but we can call her Gina.
Okay, you call her Gina. Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Well, hello to Gina in the background. Okay. Let's move on to this. Let's just talk a little bit about Valerie, as I have in the outline. Just tell all the listeners a little bit. We love to get to know these people. These are just not puzzles. These are real people who are missing. So, of course, I didn't know Valerie. Most of the audience probably did not know Valerie. So we're going to try to do our best to get the people acquainted with her. So what can you say about her personality, her interests, hobbies? Did you and she have a lot in common? Was she more like, one of your other siblings? What can you say about all of that?
So, my sister was, best way to describe her, she was an outgoing person. My sister was very friendly. My sister made friends. Like, if she saw you by yourself, my sister would be like, oh, come on, come join us. You don't have to be by yourself. My sister she was that one person that accepted you for you. She didn't care where you came from. My sister was like, well, we're hanging out. You're by yourself. Come on, you want to have a drink? It's on me. Like, and she'd go around the table introducing everybody. My sister was part of the bar scene. Everybody knew her. She was a bartender.
Oh, she was. Okay. Well, yeah. So you have to have a pretty good personality to do that for sure.
She was bubbly all the way around. My sister was, I always tell her, like I said, you're too, we always called her Casper the Friendly Ghost because we couldn't take her anywhere. I said, girl, I say, you too friendly sometimes. And she would laugh and say, you don't know what that person's going through. She was like, maybe they had a bad day or maybe they lost their job. She was like, you don't know what's going on in their life. She goes, so it doesn't hurt to be kind.
Wow. That's nice.
I loved her. Like,
What were some of her interests? What kind of music, or was she into hobbies or working out, or what was she into? What were some of her interests in her life?
So growing up, she was part of the cheer team.
Oh, okay, cheerleader.
She was a cheerleader. She was, co-captain of the dance team. She was. I always told her she was an old soul. She was that free-loving spirit where she would sit there and she'd have her, I call it her oldies phase during the daytime, and then come at night, she'd be like, let's do this, let's dance, let's party. She liked going out dancing. Okay. She loved horror movies. That was her passion with her kids. That was her thing. She was a horror junkie like all of us.
All right, so Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and all those movies, Halloween and stuff like that.
She loved those holidays, and all her babies are October babies. So.
Wow. Okay. All right, that is
so
interesting.
It just made it even. I know. I told her. I said, "Did you plan it?" I was like, "All your babies are in October."
Wow.
she would laugh and say, if God wants me to have October babies, we're having October babies.
Okay, that's interesting.
She drove a motorcycle. She liked going on drives and making friends with everybody.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, she's a people person. That's like my thing. When somebody asks me about my sister, my sister's a people person.
Okay. Do you think that was a little bit different from you and your other sister and your brother, or where do you think she got that from?
people pleaser from my mom.
Okay.
My mom is like my sister. She will give you the shirt off her back. If we have a little bit of money, then hey, you're gonna have money too. If we have a little bit of food, you're gonna have food too. No one's gonna go hungry.
Okay. All right, so you stated that she was born in what year? Again, 80...
81.
81.
She was a Valentine's baby.
Okay, 81. And you talked about her having kids. We'll get to that in a moment. But how long was she a bartender? Of course, she went missing in 2019, so she wasn't quite yet 40 years old. But how long was she a bartender? Did she have other jobs as an adult? And what can you say about that?
So she did have other jobs. She worked at Lackland, and then from Lackland she ended up getting stationed in Alaska. From there, she worked at the BXPX with her first husband.
So she was in the military.
He was in the military.
He was in the military. Okay, he was in the military. Okay. All right. Well, how did she like going from Texas to Alaska? That had to be a big change.
It was a change. She hated it. She said that she hated how it was light all 24 hours a day, and she went through that phase where it's cold, and she would always tell us, like, on base, she was like, the mooses come up to your house. They stick your head in the window like they do the movies.
Yes.
It was, and the only thing she missed about Texas was the big red and barbacoa.
What is that?
So Big Red is like the best way to describe it. The Air Forces call it like a bubblegum soda.
Oh, it is.
And then barbacoa is like it's parts of the cow, and they shred it into like little pieces. So we would always get it, and we would have to overnight it to her.
I've never heard of this.
Because they didn't have that in Alaska.
Well, I've done a lot of different, unfortunately, I've covered a lot of disappearances in Texas. I've never heard of this before. So I'm learning something new today. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. And so how long was she in Alaska? Obviously, she eventually did come back from Alaska, and I guess being that it was her husband, we know that they weren't married at the time of her disappearance. What happened there? What went on there? They came back to Texas, or what?
So she brought up a couple of times out of the 2.5 years they were stationed out there that he beat on her.
Oh.
He had hit her one time she was at the top of the staircase. She was pregnant with my nephew. My sister's oldest, and all the way down the staircase, and she couldn't remember how she got there.
Oh my! I'm sorry to hear that. So, what year was it approximately? Once again, I realize you had your own life to lead. I know you weren't necessarily keeping tabs on her all the time, but what year was it approximately that those two split up? Approximately.
It was 9/11 when she got married.
She got married to 9/11, 1999.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then she gave birth to my nephew in 2000.
Okay.
And then my nephew was, I want to say 2002.
2003 or 4.
2002, I want to say 2004. They ended up separating.
Okay. And did she ever get married again after that?
That we're aware of? No.
You're aware? Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, that's really all I'm asking.
Oh, wait, she did get married a second time.
She did. Okay.
If I recall, she did get married a second time, but she didn't take his last name.
Okay.
To give him a place to live.
All right. And please, Gina, if you just want to speak up, you can. Just speak right into the phone if you have something to say. All right, so she gets married again, but did this guy and she get divorced then as well?
No, I don't think she did. Like I said, she never went back to him. She just gave him, I guess, because she would help him. She gave him a place to live with her idea, whatever. She never went back. She lived here at the house.
Wow.
He would call and she would go drop him off food whenever he needed food, and she'd come back home.
Okay.
See, her problem is like me. She likes to help the homeless.
Okay.
And that's what she was doing with him.
All right. What years were how long was this going on? What was going on here? What were the years there?
I don't exactly remember, but she did it for a year and then she never spoke to him again.
Okay. Do you believe, at least on paper, were these two married at the time of her disappearance in 2019, to the best of your knowledge?
Honestly, I don't think she even got a divorce from him.
Okay. All right. Let's talk.
I'm being honest about that.
Okay, great. That's fine. That's the best you know. That's the once again, she's a grown woman. She doesn't necessarily have to keep you apprised of these things. It's just a question I have to ask. Let's talk a little bit about kids. How many kids did she have now? Two? 2 kids?
Well, she's got 5 kids.
5 kids. Oh my goodness. All right, 5 kids. Ranging in ages these days from how old to how old?
So her oldest is 23. He will be 24 in October. She's got the 19-year-old who will be 20 in October. She's got the 18-year-old who will be 19 in October.
Oh.
And then she's got the 17-year-old, and he will be 18 in October.
Wow.
And then her 16-year-old will be 17 in October.
That is crazy. That is a crazy. That's a lot of birthday gifts being bought in the month of October. That is something I've never heard before.
Oh, yes, and they each like their own cake. They don't like to share.
Well, I'm sure they don't. Okay, thank you.
No, they don't.
All right, and let's move on to this, though. I have read, though, that Valerie suffered from some seizures. What was this? Like I said, I've read just some biographical information about her. Did she have these seizures? Were they bad, or what was this?
So her seizures were controllable by medication.
It was a brain lesion.
It was my mom said, like she said, a brain lesion. And we were thinking that this lesion came from her first husband beating her while she was stationed in Alaska.
All right, something we already talked about before. And so this is medication for I'm not a doctor, but this is something she had to take, for example, every day, every other day, every week? Or...
She took it every day.
Okay.
If she skipped a dose, you could automatically see, like, when she skipped a dose, because then she would start with her tremors, and then boom, the seizure would be full effect. And there was times where she seized, and we had to turn her on her side, and sometimes stick a popsicle in her mouth so she wouldn't bite her tongue.
Right.
And her seizures lasted anywhere from, I want to say, 2 to 5 minutes. And after she had that seizure, we couldn't move her wherever she was at.
This almost sounds like epilepsy.
It was an epilepsy.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't epilepsy, but when she seized, she'd be out like all day. After she had a seizure, she wouldn't lose her memory.
Okay, I've heard of this. Okay. All right, so she was taking medication for this, and as long as she was taking her medication, she was fine.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just a question that I have to ask. Either of your knowledge, and I realize that sometimes it's difficult to be honest about this, but I have to ask. Any addictions that she had? Drug, alcohol, anything like that?
So she did smoke marijuana.
Okay.
She'd smoke it on a regular basis when she was, I want to say, when she was tight for funds for her seizure medication.
Okay. But anything worse than that? As you would imagine, we talk a lot about addictions on Unfound. A lot of people with addictions who go missing. But, we talk about hard drugs like meth and heroin, things like that. Anything like that?
No, not to our knowledge.
Okay. And being that she was a bartender, she was bartending, any problems with alcohol?
No, she knew better. She knew her alcohol intake. when she's on her seizure medication, she couldn't drink. She knew the consequences, and she knew basically if I take my seizure medication and I drink, I know this can happen.
Okay.
So I don't think she had any alcohol issues.
Okay.
Not at all.
So overall, we're going to get into some particular items about Thanksgiving, and then we're eventually going to talk here about Chance, who plays. We're going to talk about him quite a bit. But overall, just between the both of you, Eugenia there in the background and Roxanne, how were you both of you? Maybe you want to include the rest of your family on this. How were you feeling about Roxanne and her life and what was going on in her life in the year 2019? Would you say that was a pretty good year for her? Was it a bad year for her? What are your assessments?
We thought it was a good year for Valerie. We didn't think she had any issues. Her kids were doing well. She was content in life. She had everything going for her. She didn't have, from our understanding, she was good. She communicated with us like we're open, and when I'm talking about open, like
Trust me, it's open.
Okay.
They tell you everything and anything, whether you want to know it or not.
Okay. All right. So everything you thought that for just overall 2019 was a pretty good year with her, being a parent, etc. All pretty good.
Yes, everything was great. She was doing good. The kids were doing great.
She was going back to school.
Okay, and she's going back to school as well. All right. And regarding these kids, of course,
Something.
did she share any custody with these kids, or did she have full custody, or what was the situation with all 5 of these kids?
So her oldest is an adult.
Okay.
So her oldest is in the military. He was stationed in Hawaii last time we talked.
I'm asking about I'm asking about 2019. What was the situation regarding her kids then? What was the situation?
She had her kids.
She had her kids. Okay, taking care of all of them, all 5 of them.
Yes.
Okay. And did any of these guys have any role, or man or men have any role in these kids' lives? Did they have to share any or anything like that?
No. Actually, their dad signed up their rights.
Oh, did. Okay.
To 3 of the kids.
Okay.
Their dad signed up their rights.
Okay. And where was she living at the time of her disappearance? Was she living by herself? Was she living with somebody else? Where was she living?
No, she was living with us.
She was living with you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In San Antonio.
In San Antonio, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, just some particular items. First, we're going to talk about, because the last time both of you saw her was on Thanksgiving of 2019. Just give an overall idea of how Thanksgiving goes for your family, like planned well in advance. A lot of people show up. How do you usually put together a Thanksgiving? And it was at your house, I guess. What can you say about planning this Thanksgiving?
So my mom normally tells us all her children a week in advance. My mom likes to keep it intimate. She likes her kids and her grandchildren. She don't like outsourcing. She don't like any of the family coming. When she says Thanksgiving is intimate, it's intimate with her kids and her grandchildren.
We make 2 turkeys. I make my stuffing. I bake my pies. I do everything from scratch. And when the kids are done eating, they have to stuff their hearts or whatever. Whatever's left goes to the homeless.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So this is pretty much Gina. This is pretty much the way it goes every year. Pretty much the same.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, and how many people usually are at these Thanksgivings? How many?
Let's see. There's normally 4 of us, and then our spouses. So that was 7. That's not the fellow single that year.
Babies.
And then all your grandbabies. 4, 5, 8.
Boy, do I have grandkids.
Yeah, you have. It was. I want to say maybe like their grandkids. JJ has 9?
A lot of people. Big Thanksgiving. Huge Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And was both of your impressions for 2019 that Valerie would be there alone?
Yes.
Okay. Now I just have to understand something. Being that she was living for both of you, so did Chance show up with her? Did she go somewhere and come back? Being that she was living with both of you in 2019, how did it end up that he ends up there? Please explain that.
So, I was telling my mom, I'm thinking she probably met him in the bar. Like, she probably met him in the bar scene.
Well, I'm just talking about, we'll get into how they probably met, but I'm just talking about for that day. You're thinking that she's living with you, so did she leave that day and then come back with him or to Thanksgiving or what?
2 days before.
So, based on her Google Maps, let's see, she left, it was a Saturday before Thanksgiving that she was going to go up there with my cousin and hang out with her kids. You know, she hasn't been up there in a while.
Okay.
So she left that Saturday before Thanksgiving with us hoping she'd come back Friday morning so we can go Black Friday shopping.
Right.
First thing she said, Mama, go not stuffing.
Okay. So, but she shows up at Thanksgiving with Chance, correct?
Correct. From what my cousin had told my mom, she wants to stay out of it. She said, you know, she showed up with a guy. We thought she was coming by herself. And my cousin was like, she's here with a guy.
Huh.
And I'm like, okay, like that's news to us. I was like, you know, she's single. We didn't know she had anybody.
Okay.
She was like, yeah, she's here with a guy. And I was like, okay. And then my mom was like, well, what guy? And she was like, well, I don't know his name. She was like, but Val introduced him as a friend. And I was like, okay.
Okay. So you're having this big Thanksgiving. You got these 2 turkeys. You got the grandkids. You got all these people there. And Valerie shows up with this guy, and his name is public, so we can use it. Chance Stelzig, S-T-E-L.
So she didn't show up. She wasn't here in San Antonio. She was in Fort Worth.
Okay. All right, so let's go back through this again. So for Thanksgiving, where was Thanksgiving held?
So Thanksgiving for us was held at our house, but she wanted to go visit my cousin.
Fort Worth.
Yeah, but what do you want to call her, B?
Yeah, call her B.
Okay, so she went to go visit her cousin B in Fort Worth for Thanksgiving. She told my mom, hey, I'm going to go visit, B. I haven't been up there in forever. You know, it'd be good for me to get out for a week. And my mom was like, okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
You know, I got the kids. Don't worry about it.
Okay. And so she went to Thanksgiving down there instead of going to Thanksgiving with you two.
Correct.
Wow. Were you both surprised by that?
We were. We expected her home for Thanksgiving. You know, she said that she needed some me time. You know, and we understood that because we all need me time.
Oh yes.
Okay. So, and you thought though that you would be seeing her maybe that next day, what they know is Black Friday, the day after. That was your anticipation, Roxanne?
Yes.
Okay. So you two were not there that day when she shows up with Chance, is what you're saying.
Correct.
All right. So it's best for both of you. As best as you can tell, how did Thanksgiving go down at your cousin B's place? How did everybody get along? What did everybody think of Chance? Did Valerie explain to them why she showed up with him? What can you say about what you... I realize neither of you were there that day, but what is your understanding of that day?
So B had told my mom that Valerie said, oh, he offered to give me a ride up here. You know, B was under the impression that it was Valerie and Valerie only.
Yeah. Right.
B was in shock. Her kids were in shock that this guy is up there with Val.
Yeah.
You know, they were I guess more distraught because they've never met him.
Yeah.
You know, she said it was an awkward Thanksgiving dinner is what she had told my mom.
Ha! Okay, I guess, yeah, somebody new comes to dinner. But I have to ask, my impression, though, in talking to both of you before this interview, is that seemingly everybody seemingly got along fairly well with Chance. Or not.
We didn't even, I'm on, be honest with you, I didn't even know of Chance. I didn't know of Chance till my cousin B told my mom something.
Right.
And then my mom brought it to my attention. And then
all I'm asking you is during Thanksgiving in 2019, at that dinner, did everybody get along with Chance while he was there with Valerie? Did everybody, was it? I know it was a little awkward, but did everybody get along with him? And what did people say about that day?
No, I believe my cousin's B kids didn't like him.
Okay. And during this Thanksgiving, over once again at Cousin B's place, what did Valerie have to say about knowing Chance? They met because she was a bartender and he came into her bar. Is that what she told everybody?
She didn't tell nobody. She didn't tell anybody at B's place.
Wow.
How she met Chance.
Okay.
She just told him that he was a friend. That's how we kept it.
Okay. All right. So she shows up with some guy unannounced. And he's there, the two of them, and they, they hang out, and maybe some of them didn't think too much of Chance, and we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. So, but overall, how would you say, being once again that Gina and Roxanne, neither of you were there, how did B think that Thanksgiving went over that day? Was it a good Thanksgiving, a bad Thanksgiving? Well,
no, all she did was gripe.
Who did?
B.
She griped. What did she, please explain, what did she complain about?
He didn't appreciate that he was there.
Okay. All right.
He said, he doesn't seem to be all there.
Okay. All right, and we'll come back to that. Now, what is your understanding, though? Of course, this is where this disappearance gets started for both of you and both for B and anybody other adult who saw Valerie and Chance that day. What was everybody's understanding about where Valerie and Chance were going to be going after Thanksgiving? They're in Fort Worth. They're not where you are in San Antonio. They're in Fort Worth. They leave after Thanksgiving. Where did everybody think they were going?
She had told, my sister Valerie had told B that she was coming back home.
Okay. Back to San Antonio.
Yes, back to San Antonio.
Okay. And do you know the approximate time that those two left Fort Worth?
I actually do. I was able to log into her Google Maps and log into her Google, so I was able to bring up every stop, every location she was at.
All I'm asking about is what time, right? We're going to go through all of that. Thank you for having that.
Yeah.
Just right for this second, what time approximately did they leave your cousin B's house?
It was 2:30.
2:30 in the afternoon.
In the Friday morning.
Oh, like a.m., so 2:30 a.m.
Friday morning, yes.
Wow, okay, thank you. All right, so 2:30 a.m. on that Friday. So what we call here in the United States, for anybody that doesn't know outside of the United States, we call the day after Thanksgiving Black Friday. That's where everybody starts doing their Christmas shopping. But 2:30 in the morning is when Chance and Valerie leave Cousin B's place. And are they in his vehicle or her vehicle?
From my understanding, it's his vehicle.
Okay, all right. So what goes on this ride home? You told me maybe you texted with her or somebody else texted with her. I realize this is like very early in the morning. I'm not sure I knew about this before starting this interview. But what did she communicate with anybody during this ride, starting at 2:30 in the morning?
She texted my mom.
Okay.
And she texted my mom to see if my mom was awake. And then she ended up calling. I remember hearing my mom's phone go off because we were all it was me, my spouse, and my nieces and my nephews. We were all hanging out in our den playing video games.
Wow.
When she had called my mom, my mom was telling me she was crying. And I was trying to figure out why she was crying so early in the morning.
Yeah.
My mom said that my sister was upset. Like she had
Do you want me to say it?
Go ahead.
Okay, she called me and she told me she was crying. She said, "Tell my children I love them." And I said, "Is what Linda said true?" And I said, "Did Chance hurt somebody?" And he goes, "Yes, I did." My daughter goes, "Mom, I'm scared, Mom." And she was crying. That was the last time I heard of her.
You actually spoke to Valerie at like 2:30 a.m. that morning.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And could you tell that she was in the car?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. But you believe though that you both were going to be seeing Valerie in a very short amount of time because you believe that she was headed to San Antonio.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So when was it then when you started thinking, something's not right? When did that start?
That started when she turned off her location and her Life 360.
Okay, and were you the one that noticed that, Roxanne, or did somebody else notice that?
My mom noticed it. My mom was like, "Val turned off her Life 360," and I said, "What do you mean?"
All right, so you spoke to her, and you hung up with her, and how long was it after this call that her 360 shut off?
It was, I want to say, 8. Let's see, you talked to her at 2:30, and then my mom said she stopped. She got a notification that she had stopped at Texaco.
Mm-hmm.
And when she stopped at that Texaco, my mom got a notification that she stopped. And then it showed her, she stopped at 7:28 at this Texaco in the morning. And then she completely stopped in the phone, cut off location at 10:22 a.m.
So it wasn't until 8 hours later that this 360 app, and for people who don't know what this is kind of a tracking app that people can have with family members to see where they are, right? If you're all on the same account and you allow other people access. Now, everybody should know, anybody who doesn't know Texas very well, in general, how long is the drive from Fort Worth to San Antonio in general? What would you say the average amount of time it takes?
It depends. If you're sightseeing,
I'm just talking regular driving. If you're traveling there, not sightseeing, but traveling.
I want to say 6 to 7 hours, depending on traffic.
All right, so not close. They're not close to each other.
No.
Okay. So wouldn't be unusual if she's leaving Fort Worth at 2:30 in the morning that maybe you're not going to expect her to San Antonio 9:30. Of course, maybe they're going to pull over to sleep or something, right? That's possible.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're telling me, so they don't get there, of course, that morning, and the red flag is that approximately 10:30 that morning, somewhere around there, 9 and 10, that area, that the 360 app was turned off.
Yes.
Okay. What did you do when this happened, Gina, and being that you both recognize, what did you do when you noticed this?
I freaked out.
Okay.
My daughter never turned off her phone no matter what. I just freaked out.
Okay.
She told me the Life 360 turned off. Her location it's off. And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "It's off." And I was this girl plays Pokemon Go. Come on now. No, she tracks her steps. I explained it to my mom. I said, Pokemon Go, it tracks your steps. I said, this is how you level up. This is how you hatch eggs. I said, Val would never turn off her Life 360. I said, that's hard to believe. Mm-hmm. I said, she needs her location. She needs to hatch these eggs. She was like, no, she turned it off.
Okay. When this happened, did either of you or somebody else try calling her, try texting her or anything?
We did. My mom called her. I sent her texts. Her daughter called her. Her daughter sent her texts on all platforms to say, hey, what's going on? Mama, where are you at?
Okay. And you never got any response?
Nope. She read our messages because her messages, like when you send a message, it says read in the corner.
Okay. Very good. All right, so what do you do? Of course, this is now Black Friday. This is the day after Thanksgiving of 2019. So when this happened and she's not getting back to you, what did you two or other people in your family, what did you do the rest of that day?
We started reaching out to friends.
Okay. And any luck? Did any of them hear from her or anything?
Nope. No, nobody heard from her.
Okay. All right. So when did you finally? Of course, she never did show up. You thought that you were going to be going shopping with her on that Friday. She doesn't show up. Obviously, this is a horrible situation. When did you finally get the police involved, or maybe did you also call your cousin B down there in Fort Worth and say, you know what, Valerie never showed up? Anything like that? What can you say about any of that?
So my mom called B and said, hey, Val didn't show up. I talked to her a little bit on the phone. Mm-hmm. She goes,
that's when she told me.
She told my mom
what happened with Chance.
Okay.
She told my mom what happened with Chance, and my cousin said, Valerie was scared to go. She goes, I didn't want to frighten you, Thea. She goes, but Valerie was scared, like she didn't want to leave the house.
Okay. So when do you get the police involved in all of this?
So my mom tried to call and make a police report. They told my mom that she couldn't.
But she was a grown-ass woman.
That my sister was a grown adult, and that maybe she left and she was tired of her kids. They tried to give us some excuse, and again, that's not like my sister. I told them.
Yeah.
They said, well, we have to wait. You have a 24-hour rule. My mom said, okay, fine. We waited 24 hours because we couldn't do anything because, again, it's not their jurisdiction. She left from Fort Worth, so it's Fort Worth's jurisdiction.
Right. Right, and you're up there in you're down there in San Antonio. You're not anywhere near there.
No.
Okay. But finally, they did take a report, and I just want to go back to something before she we're going to come back. We're going to get to this in a bit, but I just want to make sure everybody understands this. When she did shut her phone off, was she in the San Antonio area? Was she in the Fort Worth area? Where was she?
She was actually between Hondo and Castroville, based on the findings.
All right, nobody knows where that is. So we're just going to keep this simple. Was it closer to San Antonio or was it closer to Fort Worth?
From San Antonio, it is
40 miles,
about an hour drive.
All right, so she was, at least her phone, when it was finally shut off, what is in the area of San Antonio?
It was shut off on Hondo.
It was shut off by Hondo.
Okay, once again, though, it wasn't shut off near to Fort Worth. It was actually shut off near to San Antonio.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. And when did finally the police start taking you seriously? How long did it take?
When I demanded, I called on the 5th, and I demanded they come take a report. And he goes, why? The other one had already told me she was a grown-ass woman, and she didn't have to report to me. And I said, yes, she does when I have her 5 kids, or her 4 kids. The other one already left.
Okay.
And he goes, okay. So the police came by. They talked to me, and they took a report. Okay. That was, I think, December 5th. And he goes, okay. He just gave me a card and he left. And I called several times after that. And to no avail, I have yet for them to call me back. Because I've already gone to Fort Worth. I've traveled down there. I've stopped at every stop that was on her tracker.
Okay, we're gonna get to that, Gina. We're surely gonna get to that. But I'm just trying to keep it to right to that time. So you actually, just so everybody understands, you didn't get to file a report until December 5th. So essentially like a week later.
Yes.
Okay. So Chance shows up at this Thanksgiving, and during that time, as best as you can tell, between Thanksgiving and December 5th, did anybody have any way of reaching out to this guy to talk to him? Of course, part of your family just met him on Thanksgiving. I'm sure they didn't have his phone number or anything. Did anybody actually have any way to reach him during this time?
Nobody knew Chance. Okay. I didn't know he existed.
Okay. All right. So we're eventually gonna get to how Chance was eventually tracked down here in a moment. So the police get involved not until a week later, but all of you, being that you could track Valerie's phone. You actually tracked her phone down and you found it. Where was it?
We actually found her phone where her last ping was.
Okay.
Which it was Medina County.
Okay. It was in that Hondo area that we spoke about before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where was the phone? Was it on the side of the road? Was it in a garbage can? Was it sitting on a fence? Where was it?
It was on the side of the road.
It was on the side of the road. Was it damaged? Did it still work? Was it water damaged? Anything like that?
It was damaged. The screen was cracked.
Oh, the screen was cracked. Would it turn on, or I guess maybe the battery might be dead, but would it turn on? Could you use it?
The battery was removed from it.
Oh, it was.
Somebody removed the battery from the phone.
Okay. All right. Now, regarding this location, is this a location that was familiar to your knowledge to Valerie, to anybody you knew? Is there any significance to this location?
No.
Okay. So on what day was it found? When did you find the phone out there?
I don't know.
Phone was
roughly a week later, a month later.
About 2 months later.
Wow.
To see what it is, we have what you call a premium. But Valerie, it was under Valerie's name. Mm-hmm. So when Valerie, I guess, didn't pay it, everything disappeared off the screen. So then I said, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I get the premium again, and all the information pops up. Okay. And it named locations.
Wow. And so you went out there. Roxanne, were you there? Gina, were you there? Who went out there and actually tracked this phone down? Who actually found it?
My mom, my brother, Jay,
wow.
My fiance, my sister-in-law,
wow.
my daughter.
Wow. Okay. And how long did it take, once you got out there, how long did it take to find that phone?
About 35, 40 minutes.
All right, so you didn't just pop up. You had to go looking through the bushes and everything to find it.
Yeah, it was covered up with trash. Like if somebody covered it up, hid it.
All right.
And
all right.
I kept passing it back and forth, and my son goes, Mom, enough is enough, BS. Let's get the hell out of here. I said, no, you can leave. I'm walking. I said, I'll walk home if I have to. I walked that for about 10, 15 minutes, and I sat there and I cried, and I asked God, show me which way to walk. And I turned around, and I say it was about 10 feet in front of me.
Wow.
And I guess it guided me to where her phone was. I started moving the trash, and it was there.
So in your opinion, somebody left it there and put stuff on top of it so it couldn't be found?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't just tossed out of a car. Somebody put it there and put stuff on top of it so it couldn't be seen. Okay.
Yes, and I found her bloody clothes. I found her
let's
everything.
talk. Yeah, let's talk about that. What clothes were found? How close were these clothes to her phone?
Like if they got in the vehicle and started throwing everything out the window.
All right. So these clothes were close to the phone.
Yeah, about 20, 30 feet.
Okay. And you did say that there was blood on them. How much blood would you say was on them?
A lot in front, and the floor was full of blood. The ground was full of blood. You know when blood is old and it's rusty?
Yeah.
It looks like rust. That's what it looked like.
Okay. And, all right, so when this all happened, did you call the police? Did they collect those things?
I called the police, and took them 2.5 hours to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got there, the only thing they wanted was the phone. They didn't want nothing. They didn't want no clothes, and they told me to do what I wanted to do. So I already had gloves in my car, and I always carry Ziploc bags because I always like to go fishing. Well, I put on gloves, and I bagged everything, and I took pictures of where everything was.
Okay. So those clothes that you found, have they ever been scientifically tested the last 5 years?
I don't know because it was never returned to me. But the only thing they did was come by and swab my mouth to see for DNA. That's about it.
All right.
My phone was not returned. The bloody clothes was not returned. Nothing.
All right. So you ended up giving those clothes to the police then?
Yes, FAPD.
All right, but they have never gotten back to you whether they have ever tested it for DNA for Valerie or anybody else.
No.
Okay. Do we know if anybody who saw Valerie at Thanksgiving was your cousin B or anybody else who saw her on Thanksgiving? Were they able to verify that these clothes were ones that she was wearing at the time or what?
No, we don't talk anymore.
You don't talk to your cousin B anymore?
No,
Nope.
she cut off all contact with us after she found out the situation.
All right.
And after I kept asking her to report my daughter missing, she wouldn't do it. And I finally told her, "What you're hiding something? Are you involved in this?" And she wouldn't answer. I said, "You either call the police now," and this was December 23rd, where I'm on my way down there. Well, she called the police, and after that, she cut ties, and so did I. I said, family like you I don't need with enemies. I said, enemies treat me better.
All right, so she is your cousin. How exactly, this is good, like, once again, you never know where these conversations are going to go. These interviews are going to go. But how is your cousin B related to both of you?
So she's my cousin. She's my mom's niece.
Your mom's niece.
That is my uncle's daughter.
Okay.
Oh, is she okay?
Okay. What is, Gina, being that it's your brother's daughter, what has he had to say about her behavior regarding all this, if you can say?
My brother passed away, so my brother wasn't around when it happened.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. All right, so what you're saying is because of this disappearance, you don't speak to your cousin B anymore.
No, I don't.
All right.
My mom does not speak to her either.
Okay. And what have other family members had to say about B's behavior?
Even her blood sister said she didn't like it.
Okay. I'm not sure what to make of that at all. Okay. I'm not saying you're lying. That is certainly something that's going to stick with everybody. So we have these clothes, going back to the clothes, they're given to the police. We still don't have any DNA tests that have been done. We don't know anything about that, and we don't even know if those are the clothes that Valerie was wearing on the day of her disappearance.
So from what I saw in her pictures, she was wearing jeans. She was wearing a red tank.
Okay. And were those the clothes that were eventually found?
The clothes that were found what were they?
It was her blouse. It was some of her shorts. It was her underclothes.
Okay.
And her brush and comb and stuff like that.
Okay. Were any of those things items that she was wearing on Thanksgiving?
No, but the blouse I found, apparently she was wearing it on top because it was full of blood.
Okay. But all right. All right, so we got the phone, we got the clothes nearby, and this is in an area outside of San Antonio. Not in San Antonio, but close enough for the rest of us to just say, we realize you living in San Antonio, it's not in San Antonio, but for the rest of us, it's close to San Antonio, not near Fort Worth. So, of course, we can't forget about Chance. How exactly eventually was he tracked down?
So I ended up going through, since I hadn't heard from my sister, I was going through stuff. Told my mom, I said, let me log into her Google. I need to log into her Google. I said, something's not right. And she was like, well, what do you mean? I said, something's not right. I said, last time I logged into her Google, I said, her password was my name. And she was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, her password was my name. Well, of course, I was able to go into her Gmail, use that password, and log in.
Okay. And that's how you tracked down who Chance was?
Correct.
All right. When did you do this?
I did this, I want to say, maybe a week into December.
Okay. And so, did you or somebody else in your family end up being that you ended up getting his number? You found out, of course, you knew his name because of your cousin B saying, yeah, she's here with this guy named Chance. You find his number in her account. And did you call him or did somebody else call him or text him or whatever?
So I downloaded a text now number because I didn't want anybody having my phone number.
Yeah.
And I called the number.
Okay.
Phone went straight to voicemail. It was off.
Okay. So, who eventually did speak to Chance about Valerie's disappearance?
We didn't get to.
You didn't get to?
No.
Okay.
Police said it was violating his rights.
Well, how do you know what he said? If he said you're violating his rights, how do you know what he said if you never talked to him?
The officer had told us if we question him about my sister, I'm violating his rights.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay, so what you did, you found his name, and then you told the police about it, and they said you can't ask him about that?
No.
All right, well, that's such crap. That is such crap. It's not violating his rights to ask him a question. What country are we living in, people? Oh my gosh. But did the police talk to Chance?
They talked to him, from my understanding, once he got arrested.
All right, we're going to get to the arrest, but I just wanted to keep it very simple. He was asked about Valerie. What did he say?
He didn't know her.
He claims that he never heard of Valerie Ingorvaia.
Correct.
That's what he said.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what he said. He never knew Valerie.
Okay. All right. When they tracked him down, we're going to get into how they tracked him down and all that. But he claimed, even though he was seen with her on Thanksgiving at your cousin B's place, he's claiming, yeah, I don't know her.
Correct.
Okay. All right, moving on. Now, let's go to why the police got to talk to him. Because eventually he was, and I want to take away kind of the secrecy on this. These charges were eventually dismissed. But What was he eventually charged with?
He was supposedly charged with beating an old man. I don't know if he was homeless or he was a vet, but he ended up beating him with a baseball bat. I think it was attempted robbery or something.
Wow. Okay, and when did this happen?
I want to say it was maybe, a week or two before Valerie went to Fort Worth.
All right, okay, so before she ever went missing, he had allegedly, this is what he was charged with, and I'll say it again, the charges were dismissed in 2023, just last year, but he was charged with beating a man to death with a bat, just like a week or two before Valerie went missing.
Yes.
Okay. Now, listeners should know I've reached out to 3 different reporters in the area where he was alleged to have beat this guy to death. None of these local reporters have gotten back to me. We're doing this interview, by the way, on June 18th of 2024. I have emailed 3 different reporters, 3 different sources on this story. None of them have gotten back to me to state why these charges were eventually dropped, but they were. Okay.
Didn't have sufficient evidence.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're talking. So, do you have any idea how the police ever tracked Chance down to even pin the beating the death of this guy on him? Do we know how that? Do you have any idea how that happened?
So, I had got an anonymous tip on my sister's missing page on Facebook.
Okay.
Telling me that Chance was spotted in Missouri. He was seen driving his vehicle without my sister. And that if I need to find him, I would be able to find him in Missouri.
All right. So So when I guess what I'm asking you, Roxanne, is how did they eventually figure out? Do you know? If you don't know, that's fine. Do you know how they eventually figured out that it was, or of course the charges were dropped, but why did they suspect Chance in the beating to the death of this guy? Do you have any idea?
No.
All right. Okay. But what you're saying is when the police finally did track him down, he wasn't in Texas, he was in Missouri.
Correct.
Okay. And so, just so everybody knows, I'll talk here for a little bit. What happened was he got charged with the beating death of this guy. And as far as I can understand, they were actually going to go to trial. They were within a week of going to trial. They were talking about putting a jury together. And not long before this trial was supposed to start, the district attorney, the prosecutor, dropped all charges against Chance Stelzig. And that happened a little over a year ago. And as I stated before, I've tried to find out why they dropped the charges. I've not been able to get any response to any of this from these 3 reporters. And I think I've asked very nicely. So so Valerie showed up at Thanksgiving with a guy who allegedly had just beat a guy to death a week or 2 before that. Right, Roxanne and Gina?
Right.
Okay. Now the funny thing is, not funny but darkly humorous, is that Chance's family, though, has been fairly helpful to you, haven't they?
Correct.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Roxanne?
So when my sister went missing, it was kind of funny. My old coworker that I used to work with in a doctor's office, her mother is actually related to Chance Stelzig.
Wow, that's a coincidence.
It was a big coincidence. I just thought it was God's way of telling me, hey, look, this is your opportunity.
Right.
So it turned out that once I had contacted my coworker's mother-in-law, then she went ahead and then her mother-in-law reached out to me. Once the mother-in-law reached out to me, she then pointed me in the direction of Chance's older brother.
And what kind of conversations have you had with Chance's older brother?
I'm going to go ahead and keep his name.
Yeah, you don't have to. No, you don't. If you don't want to say it, that's fine. We'll just call him Chance's brother.
Did you forget about a Mr. Guy?
So his brother reached out to me and said, I've heard that you've been wanting to get in contact with us. You know, my aunt did reach out to me. I had a couple questions. I just want to know if you ever found your sister.
Mm-hmm.
I did tell him no. You know, we still haven't found my sister. You know, we're still looking for her. And then he went to tell me that he wished his brother would die.
Wow.
That his brother had stole from him.
Wow.
His brother had trespassed on his property and stole from him, and he wished that if he did do something to my sister, he'd get the death penalty. That he'd be charged for whatever he did.
Okay.
So that basically tells me that that one brother was like, I'm on your side. I hope you find your sister. My brother's done wrong. He's stolen from job sites. He's stolen from my property.
Okay. All right. So this is the story. Once again, this is Chance's brother that's saying this.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. Did you get any idea that they even knew about Valerie's disappearance?
He said he didn't know about that. He didn't know about Valerie's disappearance until he saw it on the news.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So we have this. So we have, the last guy that was seen with Valerie. And according to the police, when they asked him about her, he says, I don't know who she is. And of course, we know her phone was found with his number on there. And of course, her clothes were found. Do you happen to know, maybe the brother could have told you, or maybe you found out some other way, when he finally was charged with the beating death of this guy, do you know if there was any forensics done on his truck? Do you have any idea?
No. From my understanding, from what I was told, was he led police on a high-speed chase.
He did. In Missouri. In Missouri?
I don't know where the high speed
Okay.
was, but I was told that he led officers on a high speed chase.
Okay. But we don't know anything about being that she was in his truck that day on Thanksgiving, and being that he was eventually charged with the beating death. Once again, I'll say it again, the charges were dismissed, but once they charged him, you don't know anything about any forensics or anything that were done on his truck?
No.
Okay. All right, so we have the situation. She goes to this Thanksgiving to Cousin B's place. Of course, you have falling out with her eventually over all this. She leaves with Chance, doesn't make it back to San Antonio. Her phone is eventually found outside of San Antonio with some of her clothes, blood on the clothes. And eventually the guy that was with her on Thanksgiving was tracked down due to another crime. He claims, I've never heard of Valerie Ingorvaia.
Yes.
That's how this went. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Roxanne, and if Gina is still with us, how bad have the last 4.5 years been?
It's heartbreaking. It eats me alive every single day, not knowing where my sister is. To look at her kids, and especially my niece, she looks so much like my sister. It hurts. There's times even want to get up for work, but somebody has to be strong for her kids. You know, I leave it up to my mom to be strong, but it's not all the weight that she can carry. I've taken most of the load because I know it's a lot on her.
Yeah.
And, you know, my parents are old, I say old age because, you know, they're up in age, and it's hard. It's hard to not know where she's at. It's hard knowing when her kids ask, when is mom going to come back, or when are we going to see mom again?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, you know, I want to call him, he's my sister's fourth child, and it's taking a toll on him to where, you know, he's acted out. He's ran away because nobody wants to help find his mom. Yeah. He said, if I go missing, maybe they'll help me look for my mom.
Oh, my. Oh, my. Yeah. These disappearances, they have a lot of collateral damage. For sure. A lot of innocent people get hurt. No doubt about it. If Gina is still there, does she want to get in on this as well? Does she want to have anything to say, or not, Roxanne?
Well, with the kids, I take them to school, I pick them up, I take them to work, I pick them up. In other words, I'm just a taxi. Call me Uber.
That's what you're doing for Valerie's kids these days.
Yep, I'm buying them the clothes, I'm feeding them, they come home, I'm hungry, I need to talk.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And then when they don't get what they want, they act out and tell me, you're not my effing mama. I need my mama. Call the police, tell them to do something. That's not right.
Yeah.
To hear your grandkids tell you that, it's not right either.
Right. Yeah, and then you have a guy here who, I mean, how arrogant and evil do you have to be that you're at Thanksgiving with a woman, and then later when she disappears, he just seemingly thinks he's going to get away with saying, yeah, I don't even know her. That is something. That is something.
But he does know her.
No, we know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If that lie has, it seems like he's gotten away with it to this point, 4.5 years later. So, okay. Roxanne, do you have a Facebook page, website, anything like that set up for Valerie's disappearance? If so, why don't you tell the listeners about it right now?
Okay, so I have a Facebook page set up. It is Missing Person Valerie Ingorvaia. I have a Facebook page posting, you know, if anybody knows anything to come forward. I'm willing to keep, you know, your identity anonymous. I've done it in the past and I'll do it again. I will protect whoever is helping me find my sister.
Okay.
You know, her pictures, I post them, and looking at her pictures, they're heartbreaking. I can say, oh, I remember that. I remember when we did that. You know, I plead with everybody to please come forward. I know somebody knows something.
Yeah. Do so you run that page, Roxanne?
Yes, I do run that page.
All right. So if anybody sends you any messages or anything, you'll be the one that's getting them.
Correct. I am the one getting the messages. I am the one responding. I don't let none of my family touch it. Like I told my mom, I am the one maintaining it. I will post and keep the post daily for someone to come forward.
Okay. Gina and Roxanne, any final words before we complete this interview?
Facebook. I have messages from her Facebook to his Facebook. I've got pictures that she sent him of them together. I've got 60 photos plus of them that I pulled off her Snapchat. He knows my sister. I need him to come forward. While he's out living his life free and enjoying working and going and spending time with his family, he's taken someone from us. It is his fault that my sister's not here, because he was the last person seen with her. While he's working and going out and reaching out to the community, he knows my sister, and I have messages from Facebook Messenger, and I've got pictures that prove otherwise. And I've already brought it to public eye. It's posted on her page. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah, and you've sent me some
I want
of those.
answers.
And I don't know if you've sent me any pictures of the two of them together, but I'm not asking for many. One would be plenty. If you have any pictures or a picture of the two of them, Chance and Valerie, together, I would certainly like to see one. And, I will put that, of course, up on Unfound's page and everywhere else as well. If you could do that.
I'd be gladly to share some photos with you.
Yeah, all right, great. Thank you.
I told my mom I'm tired of hiding and tired of this being pushed behind and not nobody care about my sister missing. But if it was somebody else's child, they'd move heaven and earth to find them.
Right.
Everybody keeps blaming Fort Worth. Fort Worth keeps blaming San Antonio. Nothing's being done. Nobody gives anybody authority. I've called Fort Worth about 30 times. They've called me maybe 2 or 3 times, and even the detective, Dietrich Jones, told me, I don't want to involve anybody. I don't want to involve none of my police officers. It's not their job description to look for anybody. Then what the hell are they doing working for the police?
Yeah, if that's not your job, what exactly is your job?
I guess go eat donuts, right? Time for donuts.
Yeah, I get a lot. I mean, I know maybe you. Yeah, well, I can tell you this. We've covered almost 340 disappearances. There's a lot of cops out there eating donuts, not just in Texas, but everywhere.
Sure.
But everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere else.
Right. Well, Roxanne and Gina, I appreciate you both being on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just hope you can do something to help us. I really do.
I hope that we can stay in touch. Of course, this is going to make it. I've covered a lot of listeners in Texas, of course, with my podcast. And I'll continue to give you the best advice that I can. And we do have a, decent track record with not all, unfortunately, but we have a pretty good, decent track record of getting law enforcement, other people's attention when these come out. And in fact, just within the last couple weeks, a couple of unfound disappearances have been solved right after the episodes came out. So you just never know. You just never know.
We also have Miss Tammy who has a canine, and she's volunteered so many hours helping us look for Valerie.
Okay. Out there in that area, area where the phone and the clothes were found?
Yes. We can't get onto the property because it's private property.
Yeah, it is private property. Yeah. And the listeners should know that Roxanne did send me a aerial photo that by the time all of you are hearing this, I will have made it public where the phone and the clothes were found, so everybody can see that. All right. Once again, ladies, thank you for appearing on this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that was my June 18th, 2024 interview with Gina, the mother of Valerie Ingorvaia, and Roxanne, the sister of Valerie. I thank them both for joining me and all of you on this episode. I've not done a map video for Valerie's disappearance. However, if you go to Valerie's page on Unfound's website, you will find satellite pictures of where her family found her phone. you can also look at the surrounding area. Unfound's website is theunfoundpodcast.com. I put Valerie's disappearance in the same category as Angela Green's. To remind you, after Angela's disappearance in Kansas in 2019, coincidentally the same year as Valerie's, Angela's husband claimed he took her to a mental health hospital. Then, when that didn't check out, he claimed she died in the hospital, although he could not produce any paperwork to back that up. Then, when the police got involved, Angela's husband said, "No, wait, somebody came by and picked Angela up," and he didn't know who the person was. For Valerie, Chance Stelzig seemingly told police, "Nope, I have no idea who Valerie is." Even though he knew people saw them together at Thanksgiving, they knew the two left together, and that Chance knew pictures were out there online of the two of them together. Yep, Chance and Angela Green's husband sure do know how to tell some stories. Yet, they aren't alone. We've had many guys tell stories that don't make any sense. And they only show how stupid they think we are, which of course we aren't. The downside, many of these guys get away with these tall tales. Most are still walking the streets as free men, just like Angela Green's husband is. I will say this, that Valerie went missing while in the company of Chance, a point that no one can dispute. No matter if the cause were violence or something else. This certainly raises the probability that Chance actually was responsible for the beating death before Thanksgiving. And to be clearer about what happened in that crime, I will read an article about it. The article. A man accused of fatally beating a person to death with a baseball bat has now had his murder charge dismissed. Chance Stelzig was charged with the murder of 46-year-old Faustino Rodriguez 3 years ago. Rodriguez was found unresponsive and bleeding in a parking lot in the 1300 block of Gardena Street on November 17th, 2019. Witnesses told police at the time that 3 people were seen running from the scene and one man had a baseball bat in his hand. It took police almost 4 months to make an arrest in the case. Stelzig was expected to go to trial this week, but according to online court records, the case was dismissed last week for further investigation. This article came out, by the way, in April of 2023. KSAT has reached out to the district attorney's office for comment on the dismissal, and we are awaiting a statement. And that is the end of the article. There were many articles actually written about what happened. To my knowledge, the statement about the reason for the dismissal never occurred, and I did my best to try to figure out why the charges were dropped. My best guess? Prosecutors did not believe they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt which one of the 3 used the bat to kill the guy. That's my best guess. To me, though, both the investigation of Valerie's disappearance and the lack of a trial for Faustino Rodriguez seem like red marks on the Texas justice system, no matter what day all this occurred. If you'd like to hear and read more of my in-depth analysis into the disappearance of Valerie Ingorvaia, please go to patreon.com, sign up, and partake in the Unfound blog. Until then, I leave the public theorizing up to you. And that's the program. Right now, while you are in your podcast platform, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, give Unfound a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever that platform allows. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've just finished this episode of Unfound.